Welcome to College Smart Radio, helping you bring into focus the true cost of college and how to tackle the runaway cost of financing a college education. College Smart Radio is hosted by Beatrice Schultz, a certified financial planner and founder of Westface College Planning. Now, here's your host for College Smart Radio, Beatrice Schultz.
Managing to a budget is a practical and beneficial skill that can be used for the rest of your life. Unfortunately, while colleges offer classes ranging from astrophysics to medieval poetry, there are few classes available on personal financial management. The most effective way to learn good budgeting is through handling the costs of your life. While in college, students are given the time and place to learn budgeting skills and be cognizant of how to spend less, so that when they graduate, they can transition into independence with these skills intact. On today's College Smart Radio program, we're going to talk about some college saving tips to help families stay on budget while at college. Hi, I'm Beatrice Schultz. Welcome to our weekly show, College Smart Radio, where we help you tackle the runaway costs of a college education. Our show is all about bringing up-to-date and practical advice to parents who are dealing with the cost of a college education for their kids. College is expensive and getting more so each year. With some private schools costing over $60,000, a UC costing close to $35,000, and a California State University running $25,000 per year, parents need more help than ever. We bring you that help by sharing ways to pay less, tapping into financial aid, and prioritizing your source of funds to make sure you get through the most expensive years of your life. Based on my own education and experience, I share my insights with you week in and week out. I'm a certified financial planner and the owner of the San Carlos-based college planning business, Westface College Planning. We host workshops on college planning and consult with parents on a daily basis. In addition to my insights, I bring in experts in many areas of the college process, from counselors, financial aid officers, college administrators, college professors, financial professionals, parents, and even students. You'll learn firsthand the ins and outs of how to pay for college and survive financially. And in addition to our show, you can find lots of powerful information at our collegesmartradio.com and westfacecollegeplanning.com websites. We have many articles that I've authored with up-to-date information on navigating the waters of paying for the runaway cost of college. We have a monthly e-newsletter full of content about college planning. We also have posted a glossary of key terms used in the world of college planning. Terms like total cost of attendance, FAFSA, student assets, base year, and so forth. And we have a link to our free community parent workshops that we host to teach parents about how to pay for college and how the financial aid system really works. Now let's get into today's show. The cost of college, beyond tuition and fees and room and board, can come as a shock to many parents and students. Students head off to college with the goal not to be wasteful, but pretty quickly a few obvious strains on the budget kick in. Often examples are dining off campus and higher than expected transportation costs like the cost of gas. The rising cost of tuition and fees and room and board have been well documented in studies, including those published by the College Board and the Department of Education. But the rising costs of other personal expenses aren't as well documented. Managing those extra expenses will save money and reduce the debt burden that the student may have to take on. My guest in today's College Smart Radio program is joining me today to discuss some of the ways to save more or spend less at college, outside of the tuition fees and room and board expenses. Jeremy Hyman is the founder and chief architect of Professor's Guide Content Projects. He's an expert in early modern philosophy. Jeremy's taught at the University of Arkansas, UCLA, MIT, and Princeton University. Jeremy co-writes a weekly education column at the U.S. News and World Report and a blog at Reader's Digest, The Lineup. He's a co-author of many books, including his newest book, The Secrets of College Success, Over 800 Tips, Techniques, and Strategies Revealed. Jeremy was a guest on College Smart Radio last year, and he's joining us via phone from Arkansas. Hi, Jeremy. Welcome back to College Smart Radio.
Good afternoon. How are you, Beatrice?
Very well, thank you. On our last show, we talked about tips to graduate in 4 years. And in your books, many of the 800 tips or more that you've had between all your books that you offer kind of always translate back to the cost of college. In fact, I often say on the show that every good decision regarding college ultimately would save you money. Would you agree?
I think that planning for college, both before and while you're at college, is like planning for any other major purchase. Cost of college, as you mentioned before, ranging from $50,000 to $100,000 to $250,000 should be considered with the same seriousness as with any major purchase, buying a car or buying a house, especially if you're taking out student loans, which, as you know, one can spend up to 20 years repaying. So I think both before, during, and after college, it's really worth thinking out how you're spending the money.
Yeah, I started the show talking about the importance of having a budget, but really, or thinking about the things you spend, which could be on your before you go to school or while you're at college. And I really believe that students can use college as a great stepping point to start building those good habits that will transition into great lifestyle skills. Let's talk about some of the ways let's first of all maybe give us a little overview of your book and your most recent book, and then let's take, an excerpt from some of the information on your book and talk about some of the ways to save at college that maybe some of our listeners may not have thought about.
Okay, well, the book is called The Secrets of College Success, and we just published a second edition. It's published by John Wiley in San Francisco, as a matter of fact. Book can be purchased wherever books are sold, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your college bookstore, could be a Follett's bookstore, and the price of the book is approximately the price of a medium-sized pizza. And what it offers is bite-sized information for students and for parents about all the different dimensions of college. And all the content in the book is written by professors. It's really the only book on the market where the tips are given by professors, that is, the people who would know about what college is really like. Now, in terms of saving money at college, there are two kinds of costs a student and their parents encounter. One are the fixed costs like tuition and fees and a dorm and a food plan if you're living in a dorm, and the other more discretionary costs, things that you spend every month or you don't. And we think what's most important is that students and parents, especially beginning students at college, be on the same page about the finances. Now, this requires having an open talk with the parents and the student before college, which in many families, depending on the family dynamic, is very, very difficult. I know in some families, parents are not really used to talking with their own children about finances, and also in many families, the child has never really had an occasion to really manage any substantial amount of money. So we think it's very important. Now would be a very good time if you have a student starting college to have the talk.
The talk, very valuable. And we know it can be hard. We have friends and parents that find it hard to talk to their kids, but this is a big deal. It's no longer okay just to let your kids think that you make enough money that they can do everything that they want in life. You want to help them out so they can even understand the value of that budget before they graduate and they've got big loans, or mom and dad are moving back into the couch because they've spent so much money on college that they can't afford to live in their retirement.
One of the tools we find very useful for this purpose is the prepaid debit card. These are cards issued under a variety of brand names where you can buy a card at a retailer and put on a fixed amount of money each month. So let's suppose your student is spending, let's just pretend, $500 a month. You can give your child a series of these cards, and he or she then will know that when the money runs out, it runs out. I think it's very important to be divided into small pieces. I think it's very hard. I know I have difficulty in making a budget for a full year at a time. Much better to divide it into pieces and to openly talk about what the student's needs are. A lot of the things that students, especially if they're not used to handling money, think are mandatory are really discretionary. I mean, for example, let's take something as simple as trips home. Now, many students are going out of state to colleges in the East Coast, in the Midwest. Some people, of course, are staying in California. And travel right now is quite expensive in this country, airfare back. So one place one might start is deciding how many trips home a student is planning to make. Another big expense, of course, is that many schools' first-year and second-year students already have cars. How are you going to pay for the car? What about repairs? What about parking?
Well, and I think a really good point is if your student's living on campus, do they need to have their car that first year, even if they do own a car? Maybe it would be better served and save a little bit of money to stay at home in the driveway until next summer's job is in place and they have money for insurance and gas.
This depends a lot on what college you're going to. If you go to UCLA or if you go to UC Berkeley, maybe you don't need a car. But maybe if you're going, to Fresno, a car would be of use. So I think it really depends on really having a first-hand look at what the needs are. Another thing, of course, to consider is there are a variety of discounts offered on car insurance. should consider carefully whether it's worth having the student be on their parents' policy, whether they're good grade discounts, whether you probably have done many programs on this, whether, for example, defensive driving will afford you a discount. So I think all these things are, and while you're
and actually I'll stick to the insurance question, the insurance discussion. If your student doesn't need a car and does leave that car at home, there's also a distant students insurance discount. So when you're at home and the student is more than 100 miles away at college, there can be a discount on the family's insurance policy if that car's not being driven as much and the student's further away. So those are all good things to ask your current insurance agent and to shop around.
I think also it's worth considering the cost of food. Now, in many universities, if you stay in the dorm, as is required in certain smaller schools, a food plan comes with it. But there are many permutations that you should be aware of. For example, some food plans don't include meals on Sunday. Where I went to college, it didn't include Sunday. One should talk with one student about how one is going to eat on Sunday. Another thing, by the way, is some students at some colleges have plans that allow you to eat in different dorms. In other words, you get a ticket and you can eat in any dorm you would like. This can prove quite important if your dorm is far from campus, if you're going to the central part of campus, and you want to eat lunch. Rather than going out to buy at a restaurant, as many students do, if there's a food plan that's included in your basic dorm contract, you should make use of that service.
You want to make sure you make use of that service. And one of the things that I've seen with some of the students that I've followed is that sometimes they buy too many meals. The truth is most students are telling me we don't really go to the cafeteria for more than 2 meals a day. We'll have 2 meals a day and maybe one on the weekends because they're happy to have breakfast and dinner or lunch and dinner. So it's something to think about. Is your student one that's going to eat 3 meals a day?
And some colleges, by the way, will pack a lunch for you, apropos. Another thing, by the way, that occurred to me that we mentioned in the book is the tip we call tame the cost of books. The average student spends between $600 and $800 a semester on books. Now, this is a tremendous sum of money if you think about it over a 4-year
Hey, Jeremy,
period.
we're going to take a break right now, but when we come back, let's keep talking about the cost of books because I think it is a big expense that often students are spending too much money. You're with us on College Smart Radio, where my guest today is Jeremy Hyman, co-author of the Professor's Guide series, including the books The Secret of College Success. We'll be right back after a quick break.
For more information on today's topic, visit collegesmartradio.com or call area code 650-587-1559. College Smart Radio continues in moments on AM 1220 KDOW. Contact Beatrice Schultz at collegesmartradio.com or call area code 650-587-1559. Now, back to College Smart Radio with your host Beatrice Schultz on AM 1220 KDOW.
Welcome back to College Smart Radio, where we help you tackle the runaway costs of college. I'm Beatrice Schultz. We all know that college is expensive and will most likely be some of the most costly years for a family. Understanding how to navigate the college costs to save everywhere you can is a smart thing to know. To help families be on this radio show, I host community workshops around the Bay Area several times a month that explain the costs of various colleges, how the financial aid system works, and things to consider to prepare yourself for this tremendous expense. You can find my workshop schedule at collegesmartradio.com. I'm talking with my guest, Jerry Hyman, about how to save money for college. Jeremy, we were just discussing, or I interrupted you, we were going to talk about managing the costs of books. And from what I understand, the cost of books can be anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500, some even say $2,000 a year if you pay full price for them. What is your advice on that area?
The main advice I would say is shop around. And colleges make it easy now. Many times the syllabuses with the book lists are posted on the web. Go to the college portal, search out the department and then the particular course, and you can see what bookstores have the books. I will tell you, my wife has just signed up for a German course, and it fell on me to round up the book. And I did. I walked over to the campus bookstore, and the book was, I think, $50. And at Amazon.com, it was $43. That's an improvement. But if you do a web search under different aggregators, which are meta sites, these are sites that collect, in this case, book sites, I found the book used for as little as $12. Admittedly, the used book had some markings, but still, there are many, many websites where one can search different booksellers. For example, bigwords.com is one we like. cheapesttextbooks.com is another. And there are many others as well. So I would say consider all the alternatives. And one thing that's new at college now is that certain companies rent books, both print books and e-books. A company in San Francisco that I write a column for, a company called Chegg.com, is in the book rental business. So there are a whole variety of books. One thing one should consider is how one is going to use the book. Is it the kind of book that one wants to own and keep for one's own library or perhaps for other advanced courses? Or is it the kind of book that you just want to take a distribution course and get rid of, in which case a book rental could make sense for you?
A book rental, or knowing that you could resell your books. I assume these same sites that you can buy used books, you also have the ability to be able to list your own books to
Absolutely.
To sell.
The sites have the possibility of reselling the book. Sometimes you can resell it on campus in your dorm. So there's a whole variety of modalities. And one thing to consider, by the way, in buying textbooks is in some cases the professor is using a newer edition, which can cost really as much as $150 or $200. In some cases, is a previous edition that can be bought. And here the rule of thumb is this. If the previous edition is very different, has different content or doesn't have all the content of the new edition, or if the pagination is substantially different from the new volume, it might be worthwhile to splurge and get the new volume. But in cases where they've just added a chapter or two at the end and the professor isn't even going to be teaching that chapter, the old edition can often be 60, 70, 90% off. Ask the professor when you're in doubt.
Good advice. The other guest that I've had on College Smart Radio is running the book exchange, a textbook exchange that works a little bit like Craigslist, which is Book Cheetah. It's as opposed to using one of the, it's just a different website, but it's bookcheetah.com, where you can go in and do the same type of kind of Craigslist exchange one-on-one for your books. So it's definitely worth doing your research for textbooks. So what's another area that students or parents can be thinking about saving a little bit of money?
Well, one thing that's very important, of course, is hardware and software, computer hardware and computer software. One thing to be aware in terms of software, and this is something parents often don't know about, is that there's substantial academic discounts for various kinds of software. A natural enough place to start is your campus or college bookstore or computer store, and sometimes if you search on the web, you can find very, very substantial discount. I mean, one that we like, Microsoft's Office Suite, is offered at about $20 a year. This is the cloud version. The 365 is offered for about $20 a week. Now, you'll need your student ID number or your EDU email address to qualify. If you don't want to splurge for the
let me just correct you, Jeremy, that's $20 a year, not $20 a week, right?
$20 a year. I'm sorry, I said $20.
Yeah, I just want to make sure any of our listeners are like, wait a minute, but $20 a year is a good deal because you'll pay hundreds of dollars to buy that without the student discount.
And another thing, by the way, is the various Microsoft alternatives. There's a product called OpenOffice by Apache. There's the LibreOffice. So depending on, what needs you have, various of the Adobe products, the Creative Suite can often be had at a discount. What we would recommend is just search the name of the product you're looking for and the words academic discount or college discount and see what's offered. One other tip, by the way, that we recommend, if you're needing some specialized software, make sure that it's the right one for the courses you're taking, because you wouldn't want to spend $389 for a CAD/CAM program only to find out that the professor wanted the competing product.
That's a good idea, not something to be buying ahead of time before you start the course, and make sure you check in with the instructor. Google Docs also has some freeware available, like the OpenOffice and the open environments, where you can get access to the word processing and the different types of spreadsheet software and not have to pay for it. So it'll be interesting to see the trend as these kids are getting older and older. They're probably even better than we are in some ways of naturally knowing how to get access to some of this free software that's available. But
sometimes the college itself has site licenses which you can piggyback on, so that's still another thing.
Good. So don't spend the money before you go to college. Make sure to do your research. Yeah.
Another thing, by the way, that should be considered is what computers you want to bring along to college, whether you want a laptop on the one hand, or whether you want a tablet, or whether you want an e-reader like the Kindle or the Nook. And I think here what we advise students is to consider how you're going to be using it. If you're going to be reading books, you should surely test out the display to see if it's the kind of display you can easily read from. But if you're going to be doing a lot of printing or a lot of note sharing with people in your study group, for example, it's very important that the device not only have the functions, but they be easy for you to use, because different devices have different capacities. I know my 15-year-old son just bought an iPad, and you would be surprised if you take an iPad to a high school or college, there's certain things that are quite difficult to be doing. So we think out the academic uses of the device you're going to be buying and see what best fits your need. There's student discounts, by the way, available on the major products as well.
Good. And also, today, the money spent on a computer you can use 529 money if people do have some of those college savings accounts. It is available to pay for your computer for your student at college.
Textbooks too, right?
A textbook, absolutely. Yeah, textbooks, tuition fees, textbooks, room and board. But the computer is kind of the add-on of what we might call a personal expense. Like you cannot use the money necessarily that you might be spending on personal expenses that don't come under the cost of attendance as a qualified expense.
Sounds good. Boy, you have good tips.
Well, I'm trying to throw something in here with all your tips that you've got. So let's talk a little bit about taking advantage of the facilities that are at the. I see that as one of the tips that I read about in your book. Taking advantage of all the facilities at the college. One of the big facilities I talk about is actually going to the Career Center and using it from the time you're a freshman, and that would be just about doing your research so that you can start thinking about getting a job from the very first class that you're taking. But talk a little bit about the facilities that the colleges have that can help families save money if the students use them.
Colleges these days have tremendous number of facilities, and not just facilities, but facilities targeted to particular kinds of students. Virtually any student could do well by visiting the Career Center, the Writing Center, the Language Lab, the Math Lab. All those academic support services surely could help every student. But then the more targeted kind of offices at many schools, especially the larger state universities and community colleges. Some of your listeners might not be familiar with some of them because some of them are new. For example, suppose you're a first-generation student. That is to say, you're the first person in your family to go to college. There might be an office for that. Suppose you're a returning student, an older student who after some years in the workforce is going back to college. Could be an office for that. A veteran, somebody who served in the military, there might be an office for that. All different kinds of a diversity office. If you're a member of a minority group, could be an office for that. All sorts of special clienteles are now serviced by the university, and often the personnel are very, very competent and qualified. I know in our book we've had some visiting experts contributing top 10 lists to our The Secrets of College Success book, and often the tips are very, very high level. The people have considerable experience. Also, by the way, the health services and the psychological counseling services, especially if it's the case that your university has a medical school annexed to the school, often gets very high-level clinicians. And keep in mind, of course, that you've prepaid for all these services as part of your student tuition or student fees.
Well, Jeremy, thanks so much for giving us your insight and for joining us today. I'm going to let you give me one more tip because we've only got a little bit over a minute to go in the show, and then we're going to have to unfortunately wrap up the show.
The main tip we would offer is students should be told to take charge of college. For many students, especially beginning students, younger students, this is their first opportunity in life to really be in charge. And much as one would like it to be otherwise, the professor, the advisor, the student support staff are not going to manage college for you. Rather, it's your job as the student to take the bull by the horns and master this thing called college. And as for the parents, they can help and they can suggest and they can counsel too, but ultimately it's the student's job to get on top of the thing.
Jeremy, thank you so much, and thank you for that last tip. We have a link to Jeremy's website, professorsguide.com, and also his books, including The Secrets of College Success and the most recent second edition, on our website, collegesmartradio.com, under resources and links. If you're currently a college student or plan on being one, you may want to check out his books. Well, that wraps up another weekly show of College Smart Radio. We hope you picked up some new information today that helps you figure out ways to manage the runaway costs of college. You can hear us each week here on KDOW 1220 AM, Saturdays at 3 p.m. We promise to bring you up-to-date information from the front lines of helping parents deal with the most expensive years of their lives. This is Beatrice Schultz. Thanks for tuning into College Smart Radio. We look forward to sharing more helpful information with you next week.
You've been listening to College Smart Radio with Certified Financial Planner Beatrice Schultz. If you have questions on today's topic, log on to collegesmartradio.com or call area code 650-587-1559. That's 650-587-1559. Join us next week at this time for another edition of College Smart Radio on AM 1220 KDOW.